Okay, so our workshop today is creative ideas for revamping your kitchen and your cooking, even when you feel like you have no time or everything's too expensive or you just don't know where to start. That's what we're going to be doing is how do you even brainstorm creative solutions for this? We all have different areas in our kitchen that seem hard, that seem overwhelming. So how do we even begin working through those different kitchen issues? So for those of you who don't know, I am Jami. I'm a first generation homemaker. I say that because I came into marriage with zero homemaking skills, didn't know how to cook, didn't know how to run a kitchen, didn't know how to clean. I have had to learn everything from the ground up. And I still feel like I have a ton to learn. But I have learned so much throughout the years of being married for 15 years now. And a lot of times people will say, well, they'll assume that I learned how to do all this stuff growing up, that like maybe I came into marriage knowing this, that, and that's wonderful. That's what I'm hoping my kids will walk into marriage, walk into adulthood, knowing how to do this stuff. That was not me though. And so I always tell people there is so much hope because no matter where you're at in any of the processes of cooking, cleaning, learning how to run and manage a home, we can learn how to do this stuff. And it makes a big difference when we invest this time in learning and in growth. So I'm Jami. You can see my beautiful family here. Jason and I have been married for 15 years. We have 7 babies. We have one on the way. He's actually kicking up a storm right now as we speak. This kid is active, as have all my other boys been. Baby is due in August. So we've just got about 6 weeks left until he's born. Oh, actually, no, 7 weeks. I keep skipping a week. 7 weeks from yesterday till our C-section. We are a homeschooling family. We are currently living in a renovated RV while we hunt for our property to build on. So a lot of you are very familiar with our journey right now. We just moved into our RV this week, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the hardships that has created for us in the kitchen and how I'm brainstorming those issues. So that's part of my current story. So if you're not familiar, we spent 2 years traveling around the country, 2020 to 2022. There is a fly in here that will not leave me alone. Okay. And we had a really small travel trailer. So I had to adjust really quickly to small kitchen life. So I went from my house with a real kitchen to tiny little RV, traveling for 2 years, dealing with food shortages during that time, figuring out how do I keep a well-stocked kitchen in a tiny space. And then we lived in a house for 2 years. And just this week, we haven't even been in the new RV for a week yet, we underwent another huge transition, which is going from this big, beautiful kitchen you see here in these photos, loved that kitchen, back to an RV kitchen. And so to say this takes creativity and thought is an understatement. And I get a lot of questions on Instagram and, how are you going to cook? How is this going to change, being in an RV? And I do think a lot of people picture us camping. You bring different food when you're camping, right? You bring hot dogs and you're eating s'mores every night and you're eating camp food. Well, ours is a full kitchen. We have it fully stocked. I have my Instant Pot, my crock pot. I have brought my grain mill, my mixer. I have got a fully stocked kitchen, but still it's quite a transition trying to figure out new logistics. And so I hear from a lot of people who feel frustrated because they feel like their kitchen's too small. Obviously, unique challenges with a kitchen that's too small. Grocery budget can feel really frustrating when you can't just buy all the things that you've normally bought. Time constraints, new illnesses within a family, allergies. There's so many things that can just kind of catch us off guard and make us feel like I can't do this. The kitchen's too hard. It's too overwhelming. Or it's just the busyness of real life routines where we really struggle figuring out how to do this. How do we do this? So let me show you some pictures. We're not going to just talk about RV. It's just, this is what my current transition is right now. And I know a lot of you can identify maybe not living in an RV, but having a small kitchen. So this was my first tiny kitchen. We did actually do a lot of renovation. As I look at this right now, even though our new RV is way bigger, my kitchen is actually worse in a lot of ways. And that's very partly because we haven't had the time yet to really customize it to our needs, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. But I look at our tiny little RV kitchen and I love it so much. This was my whole pantry on the right, and we made it work for 2 years. And now we are getting creative. This is my new kitchen. This is as we were painting it and starting to get it all ready to go. And as we transition back to tiny kitchen life, it is requiring me again to get really creative and think through my kitchen in different ways. And even though we already did RV for 2 years, this is a different kitchen. And so I'm already realizing, excuse me, there's many things about this RV that we love way, way, way better. But as it is right now, my kitchen is worse. And so I'm in the kitchen going, okay, I've done our RV life for 2 years, but even so, this is a different kitchen. It's a different RV. It's a different layout. There's different cupboards. I have to get creative with how this is going to work. So what we're going to talk about today is that no matter what your current kitchen struggles are, which we will talk some in specifics, you can get creative and find new solutions. So how do we do that when we feel like the kitchen is out of control? Because last night when I was making dinner, I was like, because you look at this kitchen counter right now, as I was painting it and starting to move in, well, it's full now. It's got the grain mill there. It has our coffee maker. It's got sponge and soap. And I mean, this is a tiny kitchen, and trying to figure this out means I need to get really, really creative because it's not an easy thing. But, and I don't have unlimited money. I can't just go every 2 days and buy all prepackaged food. And, you know, there's so many constraints with all of our kitchens, different seasons, different stages of life, different finances, different time, that we have to get really creative with those solutions and what that means to run a kitchen well for our families. So here's what we're going to learn today. We're going to define what your kitchen goal is. This is a really, really important first step. I might step on some toes in this first one, but we got to define what your kitchen goal is. This is going to help clarify everything. Then we're going to talk about pinpointing your problems. We're going to really get specific with what is your problem or problems currently in your kitchen, because sometimes it just feels like, oh, everything's terrible and awful. But we can actually get creative. We can pinpoint those problems, and then we can get creative with what those new solutions are. So I'm actually going to walk you through my 4 current biggest problems and how I'm pinpointing them and how I am getting creative with solutions. Some of these solutions I'm already taking action on. Some of them are things that I need to work on in the future. And then if you guys have some specific, we'll take a little bit of time near the end. If you guys have some specific, like I'm really struggling with fill in the blank, we can round back and talk about some of those as well. So be thinking through what are some of your specific problems. All right. So first things first, and I do have comments up, so I'm not going to stop a ton to answer a ton of questions, but you are welcome to chat as we go through here. So first we have to define what the purpose in your kitchen truly is. Now this is really, really, really important. And I'm going to take a little bit of time here to talk about this because we often want to jump straight to solutions. However, I don't think we can accurately get to our solutions if we don't have a very clearly defined purpose for what our kitchen is. And from talking to other women, I'm not going to say this is all of you. Maybe this is not some of you at all. But for me, and for talking to a lot of women, our attitudes greatly, greatly, greatly impact what we are doing in the kitchen and with our homes overall. And we very easily, and I have been here many times, I can become a victim to what's happening in my kitchen. I can feel like a victim that like, I don't have enough money to buy all the healthy things that I want to. I don't have enough time to do what so-and-so does. My kitchen's too small. I can't do that. I had somebody tell me once, well, Jami, that's just great. This is when we were living in our first RV. And I was teaching online about grinding grains, and the person did not realize that I live in a tiny RV. And she said, well, Jami, that's great, but like, I can't do that. I live in an apartment. My kitchen's small. Like maybe if I had the luxury of a large house, I could do it. And she was a little snippy, which is fine. And I said, well, Actually, I have a ridiculously tiny kitchen. I have lived in 1-bedroom apartments before. I get it. It presents a unique challenge, but we need to get creative with how we approach it, and not everything you can do in every season. That's fine. Not everybody has to grind their own grains. That's something I particularly appreciate and enjoy. But let's not become victims. If there's something that doesn't fit your season, that's okay. If there's things that I can't do right now. I am not canning this summer. That's sad to me. I want to be able to can, but it doesn't fit with our current family goals because we're living in an RV. I thought we were going to be in the house all of summer and moving into the RV after baby was born, but God had different plans. And so I originally had all these plans for canning a whole bunch of stuff this summer. Well, that didn't work out. And so that's fine. I can focus on the unique blessings God has given me today without becoming a victim to the things that I can't do right now. So I see all these people doing all their summer canning online. I could become very bitter about that, or I could move on. And a lot of times we very much can let whatever circumstances we're in, whether they're minor inconveniences or actually really big circumstances, we can let those things dictate our attitude, dictate our approach in the kitchen, and just kind of ruin everything. So I think we really, as women, we need to recognize that our attitudes really lead us in a lot of ways, and that we need to take a step back. And if we're being real grumpy about the kitchen, maybe we need to own that. I've been there. I did not have a great attitude for a few minutes when I was trying to cook last night. I just was like, oh, everything's in the way. And I was like, nope, that's okay. We're still settling. We're still trying to, half our stuff is not unpacked. Like, I need to also just take a deep breath and chill for a few minutes and reorient how I'm looking at this. So with that said, we need to take a very large step back, look at our kitchens from the whole, and define what our purpose in our kitchen really is. Sharon says, true, our attitude makes a difference. It really makes a difference. I think in everything. I mean, like scrubbing toilets, cleaning the house. I'm not a natural cleaner. I'd rather cook than clean. And some of you are opposite, but I don't want to go scrub the toilets. Like, I need to work on my attitude. But especially when it comes to the kitchen, we can tackle our kitchen in such creative, fun ways. But if we let that attitude stop us, it's miserable for us and it's miserable for everybody else in the family. Okay, so why is our kitchen important in the first place? Why is this something to even talk about? In our modern world, there's nothing glorious about the kitchen. The kitchen is not a space that we want to get in and that we want to be productive, and nobody's thinking, oh, how wonderful. In fact, when I post about kitchen stuff online, I get really nasty comments. Well, it must be nice to have time to do that. Like, people just we don't put the right emphasis on how big our kitchens can be as forms of ministry to our families, to other people, that there can be a lot of joy in the kitchen, even though the kitchen, cooking, meal planning, grocery shopping, it all does take a lot of work. But since the 1950s, we have sought, just as a people, to minimize our time in the kitchen as much as humanly possible. So we want fast, easy, cheap as possible. Now, I am all for convenience foods. Absolutely, there are times where we just need something easy, quick. Praise the Lord for that. I'm so thankful for my modern washing machine. Like, I'm not going to say there's not great things that can be, that can help with time. And there's totally times to buy packaged things. I'm not saying anything about that. However, that has crept into our mindset that it has to be as easy, fast, cheap, and as cheap as possible. And if it's not, then we're doing something wrong. So if there are times where it does require some more work or effort in our kitchen, then maybe we must be doing something wrong, or we become victims and, oh, I have to spend more time, where Susie Q over there doesn't spend any time in her kitchen. She just is off at the pool, or whatever. But as inflation has risen, and we've started learning the horrible effects of processed foods all the time, many of us are really feeling stumped when it comes to running our kitchens, because the solution is not to just go buy processed foods of everything. I don't think most of us could afford that, and our health cannot afford that. So there is balance in how do we approach a kitchen with a very balanced way of wanting to care for our families in a healthy way, but not spend our entire life and not spend 50 bajillion dollars. And it is easy to feel very resentful that it takes so much time and money. So we're left feeling really overwhelmed and feeling like we have to do it all. But what happens is when that overwhelm sets in, we end up doing nothing. So there's a few particular things in my kitchen right now that I know I need to do. And I'm so tempted to put them off because it just feels like a lot of work. And we're going to talk about, I need to approach meal planning a little bit differently in this RV. I don't really want to. It sounds like a lot of work. It's harder than it was in my house. I don't want to. And that overwhelm sets in. We do nothing then. So this is where I'm going to be a little bit harsh. I think that it's not actually that we don't have any time whatsoever. Yes, we are all busy. Or that groceries always cost too much, which, yes, the rising cost has been frustrating. I have had to figure out buying different ingredients than I used to. Like, you have to get creative in that regard as well. But I think the bigger issue is that we lack the skills and the excitement to properly tackle our kitchens. And so we just get apathetic. We don't want to put the time in. And a lot of times we just don't have the skills to figure out what needs to change. So I need to figure out meal planning. But I don't have the skills to do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't know where to start. And a large part of this is because we no longer as a society see the benefit of pouring ourselves into our kitchens for the good of our families. And so that's why I say we need to really rethink the way that we approach our kitchen, because it is worth the time learning new skills. It is worth the investment in our kitchens with time, with resources. It is worth it. And we have to remind ourselves that it is worth it. We need to recapture the idea that our kitchens can be used as powerful forms of ministry to our families. Because I can get grumbly, like talking about this meal planning. I don't want to change up the way I meal plan. It actually sounds like a lot of work to get it established, but I know that in order to serve my family well through finances, because this will save us a lot of money, prevent us from spending and doing takeout when I'm like, oh, there's literally nothing in the RV to eat. And also just with time, with everything, it is a way that I can serve my family really, really well. And if I can keep that perspective, it really does change a lot. So with modern society, we have become really disconnected from our modern food systems. So we really don't place a whole lot of value in that all of the steps that it takes to get food in our bellies. We've become so disconnected from that process that we have forgotten the beauty of food growing out of the ground from this tiny seed. You plant these little tiny seeds, and a couple months later, you're eating fresh tomatoes. That is such a miracle that God has given us. That's such an incredible thing that is how we harvest our food. That's really spectacular. We don't think anything of it, right? We've forgotten the hard work and the beauty involved with the stewardship that the farmer uses over his livestock, right? Like we buy milk from a local farm. We get 4 gallons a week. We show up and we see the cows out there in the pasture half the time. They have a couple cows, so half the time we're there in the evening picking up our milk, and the farmer's out there milking one of the cows, and you see the hard work, you see the stewardship, you see what it takes for this family day in and day out just so that we have milk in our refrigerator then. And I think we take grocery stores, we take restaurants for granted. Again, so thankful. Right after we get off this, I'm running into Walmart right over there to get a few more things I need to do to make homemade pizza for tonight. I'm so thankful for that. I'm glad that we have these conveniences, but I think it also takes away some of our thankfulness maybe that we have for filling our bodies with food, with nourishment, with using us as ministry for our family, because we've just become so used to just having food there. And then we grumble and complain that we have to prepare food for our families. And I think we've lost the real beauty that is involved with lovingly preparing a meal for our family. And I'm not saying that needs to be a 3-course meal all the time. I'm not saying it has to be homemade pizza every Friday night. What is it that will serve your family well in the season you're in. And some seasons, that means you're just meal planning really well with really, really, really simple meals, because that's what this season requires. And so I actually think that we need to once again romanticize our kitchens a little bit more. I think we need to see them with beauty and with fresh eyes, and to say we can do this in a simple way. It doesn't have to take all of our time, but that our kitchens can be powerful forms of ministry to our families. So I want us to get really crystal clear on what our kitchens are for. And these are just a few things that I thought of. First of all is nourishing our family's physical bodies so that we can serve the Lord with vigor. If everyone in your family is sick and lethargic from eating McDonald's 5 times a day, we're not serving the Lord to the best of our abilities. So nourishing, we can really throw ourselves with balance into nourishing our family's physical bodies, caring for them, nourishing our family's souls through good, warm, pleasing food. We can show love to our husbands and our children when we prepare foods that they love. Nothing gets me more excited about doing homemade pizza night. This has become a tradition of ours weekly. And in this last month, a lot of you guys know June was an extremely difficult month for us. There's a lot of stuff I didn't share on Instagram. We just felt like we were through the ringer in June. Everything that could have happened felt like it did happen. And so through June, I was not making homemade pizza at all. So we were getting pizza from Walmart. Walmart's got these take and bake pizzas. You guys, they're so cheap. Yes, they're absolute complete garbage, junk, 50 ingredients probably on the whatever. They're cheap, and we did pizza every Friday night instead. Well, we do pizza. We do pizza Friday night, and then we have the leftovers of pizza on Saturday night when we do our game night. Anyway, so nothing makes my soul happier though than when last night one of the kids was like, "Oh, so Mom, I know we're still like unpacking and getting settling. I'm assuming we're getting like Walmart pizza," and I was like, "Actually, I was thinking we could do homemade pizza," and the kids literally cheered. They were so excited that we're doing homemade pizza. And it does take a lot from me every single week to make sure we've got the ingredients on hand, that I'm making enough pizzas for everybody to also have leftovers. Like, it's a big deal, and it takes work from me. And yet seeing that response, which your kids are not always going to cheer when you make something homemade. They might not even like what you made. That's okay. But that is what I want to cultivate in my home. Is we do cultivate a lot of traditions and things around food because it can be so substantial. All right. And then I want to do all of this as a good steward of the time and resources God has given us. A big reason why I do get passionate about meal planning and eating the way that we do is that I couldn't afford to do it any other way. We do not have an unlimited grocery budget. In fact, our grocery budget is pretty limited for our family size. And so I have to be a really good steward. I have to get creative. I have to figure out which ingredients are worth spending a little bit more on for something for higher quality, what stuff we can cut back on. It takes a lot of creativity. It does take time. It takes research. It takes really figuring out what works well for your family and what doesn't. And then we can also use food to minister to those around us in really powerful ways. This last week, as we were moving out of our house, I had 2 different friends bring dinner over throughout the week. And because they were like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm fine. We're really busy." And she's like, "Can I bring you dinner tonight?" And I was like, "Yes, please." Like, it was such a sweet way to minister to us. She was home with her kids. She couldn't come over and help me unpack my kitchen because then we would have had more babies underfoot. But she was able to just double what she was making for dinner and drop it off to us. And so meals, food, they can be such powerful ways of ministering to other people as well. Even something simple like bringing someone homemade cookies that cost you, $1.50 to make. Doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to take a ton of time. But I think when we can look at our kitchens from a ministry perspective, it gets me more, my computer's sliding. When I can look at it from a ministry perspective, it gets me more motivated to tackle some of the hard parts. And so I want to get excited about that. All right. So let's talk about some practical stuff then. Now, step 1, we need to pinpoint our current problems in the kitchen. Now, this is really, really important that we actually do get very clear on what is it that is working, What is it that is not working? Because it is really easy to just feel like, oh, my kitchen's just out of control. Kitchen's out of control, and that's it. And I'm just going to kind of wallow in the fact that the kitchen's hard. But we need to actually pinpoint what are the specific problems. Some of these problems you will not be able to tackle right away. So I'll show you. We want to redo our kitchen. We're not at the place where we can do that right now. So that's a future project. But there are things that maybe are like, in the future, I'd like to change this. In the future, I'd like to learn how to grind my own grains, but I'm not tackling that today. So what are things that we can pinpoint, either that you can work on right now, that you can be in development of, or even future goals? So before we move into solutions, we need to first pinpoint our problems. All right. So for me currently, these are my 4 problems. Now I'd love to hear you guys. Oh, is it sound back and forth, or is it just me? Tell me if you guys have any problems, but it looks like it's still working on my end. So tell me what your guys is. If you're thinking this through, think through some really specific problems of what is not working in your kitchen. So for me currently, these are the 4 top things that come to mind. As I get my kitchen reorganized, as I get some meal planning down, some of this may shift, and new problems crop up, or smaller problems that I didn't recognize at first may come up. So I'm kind of continually in like a problem solution scenario of I hit a point where I go, oh, this feels like it's not working. Okay, what exactly is not working? And then let's brainstorm what we can work on. Okay, sound is good. Okay, good. Thank you, guys. So here's my 4 things. Number 1, my kitchen right now is completely unorganized, leading to frustrations every single time I cook. Part of this is just the nature of the beast of moving in. I had to start unpacking boxes and put stuff away to get it out of there. But then I open up another box and go, oh, I forgot about this. Where am I putting this? So we're mostly unpacked. But now the organization needs to begin, because it's complete. It's chaos. All right. Number 2, we really only have 1 set of dishes for the most part. So like we have enough bowls for everybody, but that's it. I don't have 4 sets of bowls. So we can't like eat food all day long and then do dishes at the end of the day, which with our family size, we really couldn't do in a home either, but I could get away with it a lot longer, right? So the sink area gets cluttered. If the sink area gets cluttered, I have nowhere to cook. Number 3 is I do not have my big bulk dry goods pantry to pull from like I normally do. I can say, oh, I have nothing for dinner. Oh, okay, here, there's a bunch of stuff in the pantry and there's a bunch of stuff I can pull down, and we'll just throw stuff together. I have some pantry items, but not like I used to. So that creates changes. And I'm already like, today, Jason's like, what should we do for lunch? And I was like, I don't know. We have nothing. What do we need? And I just, that problem of what do we eat, I got very used to and very comfortable just pulling stuff out of my pantry. So big adjustment. And then number 4, my fridge and freezer are tiny. And so I cannot rely on all my normal pantry staples, or not pantry staples, but I guess fridge, freezer staples. I like to keep a lot of things in the freezer that I can just pull out, just a lot of times there'll be like a random lasagna that's in there that I cooked a while ago. I don't have that. So again, quite a big adjustment. So how do we brainstorm creative solutions for these? Here was kind of my thought process. I'm going to take you through each problem and just kind of my creative process for figuring out a solution. So number 1, my kitchen is completely unorganized, leading to frustrations every time I cook. I think the flow of your kitchen makes a really big difference. When you have the things that you need within easy reach and it makes sense, you know where things go, then it really changes your kitchen. And you can have this problem in a tiny kitchen and a giant kitchen. In fact, a gigantic kitchen sometimes is worse because you've just got stuff everywhere and it can be crazy. So if you're feeling this problem, whether or not you just moved or not, there's a lot of solutions you can get creative. Maybe you need to pare down. Maybe it's absolutely time to declutter. You don't necessarily need 40 mixing bowls when 3 will work just fine. The fly is back. Go away. When 3 will work just fine. Maybe your utensil drawers, you can never find anything. You can never find the tools that you need. It's time to go through and get rid of a bunch of stuff, or throw a bunch of stuff in a box and put it in the garage. You don't have to take that step of getting rid of it all quite yet if you don't want to. But there are a lot of things that we can brainstorm and try to come up with better solutions. So I had someone recently say, yeah, I'm really struggling with my small kitchen. I feel like I don't have places to put things back. And so stuff just ends up on my countertops all the time, on the kitchen table. And then I never feel like I can do cooking. Everything feels cluttered. And I totally identify with that. I get that frustration. And so my advice to her was, you need to get stuff out of there. And when you do have a small kitchen, it feels painful because you want to use these tools. You have things that you need, but you can get really creative. Maybe your mixer needs to be for your bed. Maybe you have a spot in your bedroom, or a kid's closet there. You don't have to have everything stored in the kitchen. Yes, it is a little bit annoying. I had several things in my laundry room that I would go get. And so you can get creative with where you're storing things. But if you go to enter your kitchen and time again, you can't cook in there and you have to spend an hour just getting it ready to cook, that's going to cause a problem. So how do you get creative with whatever your current problem is? How do you get creative with that? So for me, I really need to take a step back, and this is what I'm going to hopefully do over this next week. And I need to evaluate where the problems are stemming from. So I've got one cupboard that's really well organized. And every time I grab something, I know exactly where stuff is. That's like a great starting spot for me. That is good. The two cupboards surrounding it are chaos. There's one big giant cupboard. I need to do something about this. Under the sink, that's literally just like a cavern. But you can't use it because there's layers and layers and layers of stuff down there and you can't find anything. So I need some better organization there, right? There are some things that I need to figure out and evaluate where would a flow work better in here. Now, we would really like to take this kitchen out and redo it. We have calculated it out with IKEA stuff that it would only cost about $400 to redo the whole thing, and it would give us some significant real estate. I would get way more counter spot. The storage would make a lot of sense. We'd leave the upper cabinets, but just redo the bottom. We'd really like to do it, but we probably won't be able to do it until the fall. We need to be parked on our Jason's parents' property before we really can tackle a project of that depth. And so that's not something I can do right now. That is hopefully going to be coming in the fall. But right now I need to brainstorm, how do I make it do with what I have right now? So a couple things we're going to do. Jason's going to build a railing along the very top of the cupboards. Right now, those cupboards are just completely flat. So anything I put up there, when we move, will all fall. So he's going to put some railings, and I'm going to get some plastic containers from Walmart. I'll show you guys my favorite plastic food containers they have. They're super cheap and huge, and just do a whole dry pantry up there. If I did that, it would immediately open up like 3 cupboards that I just have like bags and things like stuffed into. So that right there is going to be huge, and it's going to cost like $10. It'll be super cheap and easy. Well, it'll cost a little bit more to get a few more of the plastic containers, but I think they're only like $5. So it'll be a fairly inexpensive, and that's going to be a huge game changer. I need to figure out a new solution for my spices. So that's something that I really need to kind of look. I'll probably go on Pinterest, look up like small space spice storage ideas, and really kind of try to brainstorm in this space. Where can I put my spices that when I'm cooking, I don't have to shift 40 things to pull out the spices? The cupboards right now are too full. So I need to move some pantry food to the living room cabinets. I do actually have a cabinet or 2 that I can use that space for. So again, just kind of looking creatively, where can I put stuff that will make it easier to access? And then our investment piece that we're not doing quite yet, but we'd like to do sometime this year, is we want to get a small freezer that can go in the outdoor kitchen. So we can actually get like a little standing freezer, and this would like triple my freezer space. This, with a $300 investment, this would be amazing. Well, actually, probably not even that. I don't know. Those little ones are not very expensive. $100 investment. So that's something we'd really like to do that I'm looking forward to. So get creative with that problem solving. Uh-oh. Okay, I think that's my internet. My internet told me the live stream ended, but it did not. Okay, good. Okay, so I'll stop here and do some comments. Oh, I can switch back and see comments on here. Oh, cool. So yeah, I've never been able to establish a good flow in the kitchen, says Sharon. Yeah, that is something that really does make a big difference, but it's not something that someone else, like I can't sit here, Sharon, and say, these are the 3 steps to create a perfect flow in your kitchen. I think it just requires trial and error. I mean, honestly, I think it requires thinking creatively about how, let's try changing this cupboard to a different space. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it just doesn't, it's not the right solution and you have to get creative again, but don't be afraid of jumping in and trying to figure things out. And I think sometimes I have gotten stopped before because you get overwhelmed. It's always the theme, right? You get overwhelmed and you don't do anything. I get overwhelmed because I feel like I have to change everything all at once. So a couple of you were saying, Cindy said, I definitely need to develop a new flow for our kitchen. It can really feel like you need to do it all at once and take every single thing out of your kitchen and redo the whole thing all at once. I mean, maybe for you, that's what you're supposed to do. But for me, that means, first of all, I'm probably never going to do it because it's too overwhelming. And second of all, it's hard actually to do it that way because you don't necessarily know the perfect solution, the perfect way to do things until you try it out. So my advice to you is look at one area in your kitchen and say, my spice cupboard is a nightmare. Every time I try to go in there, I can't find anything. It makes it so much harder when I'm cooking, whatever it is. And get really creative with that one flow, this one area. And that might lead you to say, you know what? This cupboard would actually make more sense over here. I'm going to swap these 2. So it may lead to rearranging a few areas, but do it slow. Figure out and go, okay, I need to be able to see all my spices. Maybe I need to get one of those racks that's tiered that I could see everything at once. Boom, right there. That might make a big difference. So get creative with brainstorming. And what I do all the time, you guys, hop on Pinterest and just start looking for ideas. Start searching and say spice cupboard ideas. And some of them are not going to work for you. And others, you might get some really good ideas for just different ways to organize. I've seen really cool, this actually probably would have worked in our kitchen. I've seen really cool spice racks that actually go in a drawer that have like different layers, and you just like open this big drawer and like, boom, all your spices are right there. I'm like, that's such a good idea. If you have an extra big drawer, do that. Because when you stuff a bunch of stuff in a drawer anyway, you can't find anything. So use a drawer for that. Like you can have a lot of fun with that. All right. Sarah said, I have meds and supplements in my kitchen and takes too much counter space. Yes. It's a good area, Sarah, to really brainstorm that. Share your spice solution for when you get it figured out. I will. I need to work on that. Like this week. My spice cupboard is one that it's a scary place right now. The other day I could find salt. When we first moved in, I was making eggs and I was like, we have salt. That's it. I don't know where anything else is. All right. Cindy said, I agree to do a new flow step at a time and start with the worst area first. Yes. I love the spice drawer idea, but no extra drawers. Yep. So in your kitchen, you got to get creative. I don't have a drawer. I could do that either. So get creative in that. All right. My spices are in a tote in my pantry, except salt and pepper. Yes. Well, and a tote could be good if you could pull it out and open it and see them all at once. See, you could get creative. Okay. So that was us. That was problem 1. Problem 2 is we really only have one set of dishes. So the sink gets cluttered quickly. Obviously, we don't have a dishwasher right now. So solution that we just started is that in order to curb the overwhelm, dishes need to be done after every single meal. Honestly, this is really my goal in a house as well, but it doesn't happen every single meal. But we did try to like load the dishwasher after breakfast, kind of get stuff out of the way. But if I went in there at dinner time and there was some dishes in the sink or we were low on dishes, it didn't stop me from making dinner. Now, if I get into the kitchen and we just left everything, I have to wash all the dishes and get everything out of the way before I can even start cooking. And that creates a really big problem. And so we've already started implementing this with great effect that after every single meal, we are rotating with someone doing the dishes like start to finish and putting them away. So after breakfast this morning, my daughter washed all the oatmeal bowls. She dried them. put them away. I mean, it took her like 5 minutes because she just washed like 8 bowls or whatever. So it was really simple, really easy, but it's just for us. It's just that little simple habit of making that a habit, making it an absolute habit that whoever they know. So, Malachi then was on lunch and then Micah will be on dinner tonight. And it's like, if you just get in that rotation, it takes 5 minutes. It's not actually hard. And yet it keeps everything flowing so much better. So sometimes the best solution is a really simple new routine. Really simple new routine. Make sure that you get the dishwasher loaded and turned on after dinner or before bed so that you wake up to a clean kitchen in the morning. Man, does that make such a big difference. That right there can make it so that you can actually get stuff done, that you can actually cook in the kitchen. All right, problem number 3, I don't have my big bulk pantry to pull from like I used to. So I have needed to pare down on my dried goods because in my house, I was able to have 10 or 15 different grains on hand because I could have a little tiny half gallon of barley, which I don't use very often at all, but every once in a while I'll reach for it. So I've got a little bit there. I use green lentils. We use a lot. Hardly ever do I use red lentils, but I had a little tiny mason jar of red lentils so that I could pull them when I needed to. Well, now in our RV, I'm just pared down to the very basics of the ones we use, which is great, but in some ways that's more simple, but it also means I don't have just resources to pull from. So I have to be very specific with what I have on hand and make sure that I am planning things out very well. And so this is taking a little bit of trial and error to really figure out what do I need to be restocking? What is it? What is making sense? And then, not being afraid to realize, oh, you know what? That was the wrong decision, or we tried that out and that's not working. Especially with how we're storing these, and then also what I need to keep on hand to actually pull from. So figuring out creative new solutions sometimes takes trial and error. That's not a bad thing. Like we were saying, you may change your cupboard around in your kitchen and realize, oh, this doesn't work as well. But every time you try something new, you're getting closer to that final solution. Every new thing you try is getting better. Okay, problem number 4. My fridge and freezer are tiny and I cannot rely on my normal pantry meals like normal. So I have gone into a really good routine. This has really changed my kitchen in big ways to just have things in my freezer, in my fridge, in the pantry. And I have so many recipes. I mean, pretty much all the recipes in my first cookbook that I could just whip together at a moment's notice because I just keep those pantry staples on hand all the time. Well, this is the biggest change for me living in an RV is that I need to change the way I meal plan. I can keep things on hand, but I don't have the ability to keep as much on hand. I can't just be like, oh yeah, I have 50 pounds of ground beef from that cow we bought in the freezer. I just always have ground beef. No, if I want ground beef in the next week or two, I need to plan and make sure that it's there. And that's a very big difference. And I need to get back to doing extremely specific meal plans and tracking. It's not my favorite way to do things. I prefer to do it the way I was doing in my kitchen. It's simpler for me. It's much easier. It's more on autopilot. But if I can put the work in to establish more specific rigid meal plans in the RV, then I can put it more on autopilot. So this is the area for me that is definitely going to take more work. It's going to take more time. And I have a plan. I know what I'm going to be doing because I've already half done it. But I have to tailor it to my RV kitchen and really figure out. I just have to put the work in. Honestly, that's all I have to do, and I don't want to. It doesn't feel like a fun task to establish this, and yet it will make literally all the difference in my kitchen. So the creative solution will take me some time to get back into the habit of, and that's okay. I'm going to kind of give myself this month to really get back into it because then next month we're having a baby. So I need to make sure that the food and the meal planning and the flow of our kitchen is really working by then, or we're going to have to eat takeout for every single meal. And that's not happening. So we need to make sure, I need to make sure that I have it very well established and that there's things that I can easily hand to Jason as well. And he knows where everything is and where everything's established and things like that. Right. Okay. Sarah said, Hannah said a lazy Susan for meds on the counter. And then Sarah said, yeah, that's why I haven't cooked from your first recipe book that much. Lots of things I don't have and no place to put it if I buy any more. Well, that's where figuring out, I mean, there's a lot of pantry staples that if you have black beans, if you just keep, one or two specific things on hand, you got black beans, you got cocoa powder, flour, you can make amazing brownies. And you kind of just get into the habit where this is a recipe that we like. This is, I can make this all the time. It doesn't have to be pantry recipes that somebody else makes, but figuring out a couple of things that you really like. I will not have the breadth of recipes in my RV. I don't have barley, I don't have buckwheat. There's certain things, there's certain recipes that just I won't be reaching for as much in the RV, and that's okay, unless I want to specifically go out and buy like a little tiny amount of that. That's fine. But there's plenty of other things that with flour, with water, with salt, with cocoa powder, there's 50 things I can make out of those few simple ingredients. And so really figuring out for your family, for your food preferences, for what you like to eat, figuring out what those recipes are for your family, even if it's just 5 or 10 recipes, that's what makes a huge, huge difference. Okay. So those were my 4 problems. So if you guys have problems you guys would like me to help, we can all kind of just brainstorm. If you have any specific problems, let me know. But my last creative solution for you. Now, some of you might not like this and you're going to say, this is a horrible suggestion. This doesn't work for me. That's okay. For my last creative solution for you though, is to find something new that you love in the kitchen. All right. I'm not giving you more work. I'm helping you. I want you to get excited. It is so much easier when you can get excited about something. So if you're excited to work on something in the kitchen, I have found that like 9 times out of 10, this is what gets me out of like a cooking slump, is when I have decided that we're going to like make homemade marshmallows. And yes, it does take work. It takes time. I got to find the ingredients. We got to get in the kitchen. Like I still have to make myself do it. But the kids and I are so excited to make homemade marshmallows that we get in and do it. And once I just take that kind of initial step to get back into the kitchen, to get in there and do something fun or something new, it kind of just unlocks the door. It's getting over that hump of the overwhelm. And so I think this is a really important step. And it might sound counterintuitive because you're thinking, Jami, I'm already so overwhelmed in the kitchen. You're telling me to learn something new or do something extra? Like, are you kidding me? But I want to encourage you to do something fun. It doesn't even have to be new, but just something fun in the kitchen. And it really might be that spark that you need to get back into things, because it does feel, you get in that cycle, right? I've got to cook breakfast and lunch and dinner and do it all again. And it can feel like such a chore. And when we bring a little bit of excitement back into it, something a little bit fun, it can just kind of breathe new life into opening that door to get back into the kitchen. So some fun ideas that we've liked. I mean, you may have completely different things. Some fun things that we love to do in the kitchen. You can learn how to make homemade ice cream. You can make such simple ice cream. You don't even need an ice cream maker. You can do bagged ice cream. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. You can make you can make homemade ice cream in like 5 minutes worth of work. You can do really, really simple. You can try something big like making homemade kombucha. So if you're ready and you're like, yeah, I know how to do a lot of things, I just want to get back and excited into the kitchen, learn something new like making homemade kombucha. Make homemade marshmallows. That is always a really fun one. Homemade marshmallows there's just something like so delightful of being like, I made this marshmallow. This is so fun. Homemade gummy bears. Gummy bears are really simple. You just need gelatin, not Jell-O. You can just use real gelatin. They're such a favorite for kids. Again, gummy bears, you're like, I can't believe we just made this in our kitchen. You might not have little kids at home, so some of these, maybe aren't as fun. Although I'm a grown adult and I love gummy bears. I'm just going to be honest. Try something new and simple, like making homemade yogurt. Maybe that's not as exciting, but it's a really big win. Like, it's so easy to make homemade yogurt. It tastes amazing. It's cheaper. It might be kind of a fun little win to just kind of get you back in the kitchen. Another great idea is to figure out and learn how to make your favorite dish from a restaurant. So this is super specific. I don't know if any of you guys have ever eaten at the old spaghetti factory. There's not that many of them. There actually is one in Oklahoma, which is weird because most of them are on the West Coast. So I grew up eating at the old spaghetti factory. And they use something called Mizithra cheese, and they make this Mizithra spaghetti. It's like one of my favorite things on the entire planet. Literally have never heard of or seen it, or have nowhere can you get it. And the Mizithra cheese to buy is like very specific. Well, I was like, I need to learn how to make this Mizithra spaghetti for our family, and our whole family loves it. So I hunted down, found out where you can order, or I actually found a place in person that I could get this Mizithra cheese. Super simple recipe. You just brown butter and like put this cheese on it. So easy. Learned how to make it. And like, that was really fun and rewarding to be like, we love, like I would go eat this Mizithra spaghetti like every day if I could. Now I've learned how to make it at home in my own home. So it can be really fun. Like if your family loves Chipotle, once a week or once a month, do a whole Chipotle spread at home and like get really into it and have fun. Make a whole thing where you can make your own homemade Chipotle, right? Or like for us, it's homemade pizza. We make a big deal about the homemade pizza. It's so fun and exciting. The pizza is a big thing and it's really fun. Another one, make homemade Reese's peanut butter cups. If you have my cookbook volume 2, it has our peanut butter cup recipe. Oh my gosh, are they amazing? And the kids beg to make them. They're not hard to make, but they're a little time consuming because you have to like freeze them in between every single layer. They're so much fun though. Okay. So thinking of something to just kind of get you back into the kitchen. What is something that would be really fun? There's so many things you could do. Try making homemade pasta. There is just you can get really, really creative. And I think there's something about moving beyond basic cooking. So basic cooking is great. I mean, I can have a lot of fun cooking meals for my family. But again, it does feel a bit more like a chore. There's something really satisfying that you're like, I made these marshmallows. You get these like actual like squishy marshmallows that you made. And you're like, this is so cool. Like it is just really neat to see the things that you can make that you never thought of. You never thought, oh, I can make gummy bears. There's something very rewarding in it that just is very fun. And also, I'll give you some encouragement. You might make homemade marshmallows for the first time and they don't turn out. That's okay. That's also part of the learning process, is failing sometimes when we learn something new, which is never fun. Okay. Abby said gummies are always a win in my kitchen. Yes. Gummies are so fun. I don't know why. Nicole says I was able to recreate our favorite pizza from a big chain here, and it tastes even better homemade. Yes, that's why we all love it. We love our homemade pizza because it tastes so good, and you can make all your own fun concoctions. It is really fun. We love that. This fly, I tell you what. Okay, so you might be thinking, but I really need to learn some new skills in the kitchen. You're thinking, okay, this is great. I just need to find a new flow. I just need to figure out pantry staples. I just need to, it sounds simple to say that, but wait, I don't know how to do this. Don't worry, I've got you covered. I've got a fantastic resource that I know half of you in here have already taken full advantage of. So let's talk about what this is. So the Joyful Home app, for those of you guys who have not seen it yet, this is the greatest project we have ever worked on. In fact, it's only like half done. There's so much more that's going to be coming in here. Both archived resources, new resources. Oh my gosh. So it's a biblical resource to help you form a joyful, productive household. We know how hard it can be to find quality, helpful resources today. We're actually building up more resources for kids. We have several summer camps going on this summer for kids. And one thing that's really amazing is that these are not YouTube videos. These are not videos that ads are popping up on. Like, this is all 100% our content. It's a safe place that your kids can watch baking school for kids. And they're not going to suddenly be on YouTube videos or, clicking over to ads or anything like that. It's all contained, safe. It's all our stuff on there, which I think is really huge. So here's a little peek at the app. When you open it up, you can see this is scrolling down through just some of the resources that are on there. But basically, the Joyful Home app has audiobooks, which those are going to be really ramping up soon. Jason's been working on a ton. We have courses, online conferences. You can listen to all of our podcasts. There's just so much. But the reason I want to talk about this is there are some very, very specific kitchen related resources that are really, really helpful. So the first one is learn how to brew kombucha. If anybody is really at that point where you want to learn, we have a full course in there to teach you everything you need to know about brewing kombucha. That has been something that's been really rewarding for our family in the last couple of years, is really figuring out kombucha. And then the kids all have like their different flavors that they love. My one son is in charge of making it every week, and he gets really into the flavors, and he labels all the bottles. And we have our whole kombucha set up with us in the RV. That is one thing we did bring, but we've got that whole course there in the Joyful Home app. And I'll give you guys a coupon code here in a second, and I'll direct you over where you can find out all about that. But the kombucha course is super fun. We also have a home preservation guide, which is 9 lessons on how to preserve. So canning, dehydrating, and I don't even remember everything that's in there. I teach a couple of the lessons, but then we also have the amazing Kate from Venison for Dinner. If you follow her over on Instagram, she does the hands-on tutorials. So you can see right here, she's teaching you pressure canning basics, pressure canning chicken broth. She teaches you how to pressure can beans. Really, really, really helpful. So that full guide, the full 9-part course is in the app. This is the thing that's the most important thing for me right now. So this is the 14-day meal plan boot camp. This was my most popular boot camp that we have ever run. And if you need any help whatsoever in your entire life, this meal plan boot camp is amazing, because it just takes you through step by step everything. And basically you get to choose what your goal is, how you want a meal plan, what your recipes are. But by the end, then it's teaching you how to create a year's worth of meal plans. So I had went ahead and done all of this. I had done my entire meal plans for spring. And then everything went off its rocker with moving and being crazy. So I will actually be jumping back into my own stuff here using the printables that it comes with, because it has all the printables you need to make your full entire recipe binder for your whole year of meal plans that you then reuse. It's really awesome system. I will be jumping back into this and developing summer and fall completely. I had started on them, but I never finished them. So this is what I will personally be working on, to just make it so that I can actually put my meal planning on autopilot. Even though I have to do more detailed meal planning than I want to right now, this is what's going to help me do it in a really sustainable way. So if you want to come, you can come join this entire 14-day boot camp as part of the Joyful Home app. Another thing we have is you can watch all of my Azure hauls. So we've got Azure videos. Azure is where I buy all of my bulk foods. And some of them are filmed in my house. Some of them are actually filmed in our last RV. So you can see what my hauls were for the RV. I need to go back and watch those ones. And then as I have future Azure hauls, I will be adding to this collection as well of the Azure hauls we have in our current RV, which is really handy. All right. And then the last resource here, there's more kitchen resources if you search through the app, but the last one that's really helpful is building your bulk pantry. So the secret to affordable, healthy cooking is building up a bulk pantry, and it doesn't have to require a large house. I cook out of a bulk pantry still in my RV. It just looks a little bit different. I just have to figure out what that looks like in my house right now. And this course teaches you how to do that, no matter what your household size is. It's a very, very popular boot camp that we had, and you have full access to it there in the app as well. And then you also get access to the 2024 Finding Joy in Your Home online conference that we just did at the end of May, Building a Fruitful Home. So all of the resources feature hands-on tutorials and videos on various handicrafts and skills. So we do have like a bread baking one. I can't even think now all of the ones we have, but we've got a session on knitting, on quilting, just really fun stuff. So that was our latest online conference, and you can get access to that in the app as well, which is really, really cool. Okay, so you can find out how to join all of these incredible resources with our new Joyful Home app. 100% of everything you just saw, plus hundreds of other resources for less than $11. We really wanted to make this as absolutely affordable as possible. So if you guys want to head over to joyfulhomeapp.com, you can use coupon code joyfulhome20. I will include this information in the email when I send it out. Joyfulhome20 will give you 20% off when you sign up, and that 20% carries month after month after month. It also applies to the annual plan, which gives you the best discount because you're getting 2 months free plus 20% on top of that. When I actually set it up, Jason's like, "Are we giving 20% to the annual people too?" And I was like, "Yep." So I don't know, maybe it was a mistake, but that annual plan is really cheap compared to, it comes out to like $8 a month, I think, or something, if you were to break it down. So head on over at joyfulhomeapp.com. I know a bunch of you in here are already subscribers. Use coupon code joyfulhome20, and we have really incredible resources lined up coming out still too through the rest of the year, which is exciting. Okay. So let me go back through and see. We're going to do that giveaway in just a second. Okay. How do you shift priorities in your kitchen when the unexpected or unplanned happens over and over again? My biggest pitfall is getting back on track over and over. Okay, Wendy, we'll talk about that in a second. That's really great. Michelle says, I really need to schedule time to watch the kombucha course. Yes. Make a plan. Just say, you know what, this week I'm going to, I think the first lesson is, let's go. Let me show you guys. I'll show you around a little bit. Okay, share this tab instead. Okay, so you guys should be able to see the app. The great fun thing about the app is it's all front facing. So if you go to joyfulhomeapp.com, you can actually just see what I'm seeing. You're not going to be able to, everything will be locked. You won't be able to view it all, but you can actually click around and really see, like, would this resource be helpful for me? So let me see. Yes, okay. So the kombucha mini course starts with this class here, Kombucha 101, getting started. So it's a really great class because it does feel overwhelming to start something new that you're like, I don't even know what to buy. What do I have? What do I get? Watch this first class. Schedule, let's see how long this is.
Hey guys.
Okay, 20 minutes. Schedule 20 minutes. And we're going to walk through all of the things that you need to have, and then you can kind of make a plan from there. So it's this course in particular is really great to do that, to get started, because you could just watch the first lesson and then make your plan of, okay, what do I need? And then you can, and then lesson 2 then is,
hey guys,
starting
welcome.
Kobe. So then once you get your kit or whatever you're going to get, there's lots of different options. Then you can watch this one and get started. It works really well because you can kind of, progressively go through, right? Okay. Sharon said, I'm excited to receive your cookbooks. I ordered them on June 24th, but I think you said we should expect them at the end of July. The cookbooks will be coming. If you haven't received them yet, then it means it was in that last batch, and Jason will be shipping them out over the next week or two. We did have, if you ordered anything else in our bookstore, we also had our classic reprints and the Sterling Spectacles books. Those books have been on back order, and they're finally arriving to us. So some of these orders are just, Jason's waiting on like a piece to come in, and then the order will be shipped out. So also then, of course, the last week has been insane. So they will come very soon. we are working on that. Okay. Okay. Michelle said, have you found any foods that are actually more expensive to make from scratch? I keep thinking that butter sounds really expensive to make. So it really, really depends. There absolutely are some things that you can make that are more expensive. So the way that I make homemade mayonnaise is more expensive than if you were to go buy like the cheapest mayonnaise you could find at Walmart. The difference is that has 20 ingredients and is made with soy and is absolute junk. The mayonnaise that I'm making is actually a whole food. It's using real egg. It's usually using avocado oil, which is not cheap. However, it's way cheaper than the avocado oil mayonnaise that I could buy at Walmart or at Whole Foods. So a lot of times it's kind of about what are you switching out? And then there's tons of things I make that are significantly cheaper than even the crap stuff I could buy at the store, right? So sometimes it kind of evens out that, yes, I'm spending a bit more to make healthier mayonnaise, but then I have my pancakes are super cheap because I don't buy a pancake mix, right? Some stuff does kind of even out. A lot of times it comes down to what flours you're using or what oils. And I would say most of the time, if I'm ever making something that's more expensive than its like Walmart counterpart, it's because I'm making significantly healthier. So yes, maybe some of my bread that I'm making from all my freshly ground grains is more expensive than the white loaf of bread on the shelf, but it's significantly cheaper than like the equivalent super healthy bread, right? Does that make sense? Now butter is another one though. Butter really depends. So if you're buying the cheapest butter at Walmart, or Costco's got a good price on their regular butter, that might be the cheapest that you can actually get. But if you're buying Kerrygold butter, then you're trying to find grass-fed butter, then making your own, if you have access to maybe milk from a farm, actually could be a lot cheaper. So there's a lot of variations too. And it's not just as easy sometimes to say what's the absolute cheapest. If you wanted to make the absolute cheapest cheap bread, you probably could still make it a lot cheaper than the white bread in the store with using white flour. So it really does, it's kind of about which ingredients and where you're kind of putting the investment on health as well. Bread is pennies on the dollar to do homemade generally, but good pizza homemade is way more than a frozen pizza. Yes. Yeah, that absolutely can be true, especially if you're using, like, we love to buy the raw cheese from Azure, and that is definitely more expensive, but you're making something that's almost like a superfood pizza compared to what you're getting in store. That if you were to compare to like a really fancy restaurant, you are actually making it way cheaper. So it's kind of, it is hard. That's my problem. My butter is too cheap, but I wanted to upgrade to Kerrygold anyway. So you're right. Yeah. And there are times. So, for example, with butter, for years and years and years, I only bought grass-fed. We had been using grass-fed for years. It worked really well because I was making a lot of other stuff from scratch. I was saving money. I could buy better quality butter. I will tell you, in the last year and a half, I buy the cheapest butter that I can find because we go through a lot of it. And with stuff so expensive, that's what I can do right now. And that's a concession that I've made. And other people will buy the higher quality butter and cut in other areas. And that is awesome. It's about figuring out what works well for your kitchen. I still do have hopes of still elevating certain things in our kitchen. I'd like to get better butter again. But for right now, I'm buying the really cheap butter and I'm thanking the Lord that we have access to that. I hope you guys had fun on here. I know this is a big topic. This is not super simple to just say, here's your 3 perfect steps for redoing your entire kitchen forever and it'll be perfect. There is a lot. This is a big conversation. And the bottom line that I want to encourage you is that there is no perfect step. It's really taking some time to be intentional and thoughtful with your kitchen. And to really, you can even see on here, how many of us have had different problems that we're already talking about. For me, I perfectly can cook out of my cookbook with those ingredients that I keep on hand, and it's perfect for me. For the other person, it's harder, and she can't cook out of it as well because it's not, there's so many different things in our kitchens. So be intentional. Really think it through and give some thought to it. Like, just kind of mull it over. Think through as you're in your kitchen making dinner tonight. Think through, what are the things that are just not working out well? What is it that I can change? What are some things? And really start to brainstorm it. This is definitely a conversation we can carry on. For those of you guys who are in the Joyful Home app, we are looking at developing some more kitchen series for this next year. So if you have things that you want to do, I really want to do like a cheese making course. I think that would be really fun. So if you guys have any thoughts, anything that, especially if you're in the app already and you're like, Jami, please make this for us. What kind of classes do you need? We're also working at partnering with a lot of other teachers who are going to be coming in. We actually have someone who's going to be working on a full sewing class. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. So you just pass on the ideas. If you're thinking, hey, it'd be really helpful to have this sort of resource in the app, I am all ears. Let me know, because then we know what you guys want. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining. I just had a ton of fun. I will go ahead and get this replay out to you guys as soon as we're done. So, all right. Thank you guys, and we will chat later.